So I put this filler on, this next coat of filler, and I didn't put a whole lot of hardener in it. I want to try to shape it while it's still soft. So I got some 40 grit on my block. I'm going to keep checking it until it starts to set up, but it's not quite there. So while this is drying, before it gets hard, but after it starts to set, you can shape it really fast. That's probably what I should have done on this whole panel, but this filler, this original filler doesn't do that very well. So I went with a filler that I can shape a little bit more while it's soft. So we're gonna hang out, wait, and when it gets to that right point, we'll start carving it out. Still too soft. Come on! I got the heat on. Trying to get this to kick over. It's almost there. Still rolling. I'm trying to block over it. I'm going just past that. Got to get just a little bit harder. It's not my favorite way to do it. I don't like using 40 grit. Sometimes you got to. Set up a little bit more. Years ago, this is how you work filling. Put it on there, and when it got in that in-between stage, you would shape it with a cheese grater, a rasp. And that way you got it pretty close. The old body filler used to get really hard, so you need to get it as close as you could, as fast as you could, before it got to that really hard state. Today's filler is sand so much easier, you hardly ever need to cheese grate them. You don't need to do this very often. I've just got such a big area, but I need to try to get it shaped before it sets up. It's taking me forever once it sets up to sand it. Still not quite where I want it, but I need to try to start on it to get ahead of the curve. It's almost there. Turn off all this heat, so I'm trying to keep it in that state where it's at as long as possible. I had to catch my breath. So our shape feels really good. I left it a little bit high so I can take some 80 grit, try to cut out most of the 40. We got a little low spot here, a low spot there. Try to fill those in. But overall, that was a lot better than the way I did this side. Went a lot faster, I think. I'm going to put a real thin coat of this metal glaze on there and then sand it off with 180 and we should be ready to prime. That's a lot of glaze right there. We'll let that sit until tomorrow and then we'll sand it down with 180 and prime this thing. It's a real thin coat. Got to put a little bit on there so you have something to sand. But it's a real thin coat. Hopefully it'll take care of all our pinholes and heavy scratches and stuff. Alright, so when I work this, I'm starting over here on this side. I get this down a little ways, but you'll notice I'll work this area, I'll work it out this way a little bit, I'll keep going, and I'll come back to this area. So as I'm taking this down, I'm also taking that same levelness, that same surface across as I go. So you can't like start in the middle and make it flat. What you do is you try to pick a spot that's like this body line where it should be pretty straight. You get that down where you want it, but you transition it across the rest of the panel. You'll transition it a little bit and you'll come back to this. You'll transition it out a little bit and come back. You keep working it until it's all where you want it. Once this gets down to where I want it, I won't come back to it. I just kind of keep working it down, moving it out, working it down, moving out, back and forth till it's done. Right now I'm using 120 grit paper. And I'll use that to get this shape that I want. So this hood's getting pretty close, this filler. There's some areas I can see through it, so I know I'm getting down to where I want to be. I can see the color of the other filler underneath. And this corner right here, I know it's high. I know I still need to get rid of some flaws. There's plenty of filler on there to sand off. So what I'll do is I'll work, let's call this a plane. I'll work this plane here. Like I was saying before, when you block, you want the most contact with your surface, with your block as you can get. So if I turn it this way, with the roll of the hood, I'm not making much contact. So that could sand a low spot into it if I went that way. So anyway, I've got this plane. This is the one that I want to work this way. Then on the front, I want to work this way because that's how it makes the most contact. So I'll make those cross marks, X marks. I'll work this plane, I'll work this plane, and I'll kind of bring them together on this corner. This stick's fairly flexible, so I'll work these two planes together is what I'll do. So I get it nice, smooth transition both ways. That's what I'm aiming for, and not leaving too much filler on. So right in this area, I feel kind of a low spot. So with the low spot right here, if I just go like this, I'm just riding in that low spot. If I go across it at an angle, I'm sanding both sides, which are high, and bringing them down to try to get it nice and even. All right, it's prime time finally. After ever how many weeks it's been. Everything's looking pretty good. We've got a few flaws, nothing major. We'll catch that on the next pass. It's time to lock this thing down with some good primer and move on to the next step. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch y'all next time. If you haven't subscribed, come on and enjoy the fun.